Okay, we're going to make a start. It's a couple of minutes after 3, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the latest in our free webinar series. And this one, of course, is on presenting with Edge, one of my personal favourites, and one that we offer as a product, as part of a product with presentation skills. And presenting with Edge comes as part of the package with some coaching sessions as well to really increase people's confidence around making presentations. Okay, so we'll move on. So a few webinar ground rules. I think quite a few people may have attended one of our webinars before, but for those of you that are new to our webinars, it's just a short, snappy 30-minute session. The content is led by us. We do try and encourage interactivity during the time, so you'll get to complete a quick poll. There is chat functionality as well, so if you hover your cursor, there should be sort of a black ribbon, and on that is chat. You can chat at any time, so send a message, ask a question, feed into the conversation. We might even use an interactive whiteboard during the session as well. We'll see how we go. Everyone's microphone should be on mute, and that's purely because we want to limit any background noise. And a recording will be available. All our recordings have been put onto our website, normally take a couple of days. And if there's one that you particularly want that seems to be missing, please contact us. And there's right at the very end, I know you'll perhaps be keen to get off, but there's an online feedback form which literally will take you a couple of minutes to do. We really appreciate you feeding back to us. That'd be awesome. Okay. So about me, I keep trying to keep it fresh and change my pictures and the text, but I'm Lee Morris. I'm one of the facilitators actually at AM Partnership. I've been delivering, as I put on there, hundreds, maybe even thousands of presentations over the last 15 years. I've been in learning and development roles, working for the Youth Hostel Association, working for Nottingham City Council, and latterly working for ANDS Partnership and going out and consulting with stakeholders for leadership and organisational development opportunities. And then I get to deliver, which is kind of the icing on the cake and something that I really enjoy. But one thing that I would say is, and like I've put there, I am still learning. I consider myself as experienced in delivering presentations, but there's always something to pick up and to learn. So why develop your presentation skills? Well, according to one report, and there's many out there, up to 75% of people suffer from a fear of presentations. However, you know, it's certainly in this workplace now, presentation skills are absolutely paramount. They're a key skill in the workplace, and whether you need to deliver a really short presentation in a team meeting, or whether presentations are part of your job, or whether they're for interviews, they're really, really key now. But as you can see there, 3 out of 4 people don't like them. What I would like to do is start with a quick poll, which will just gauge how you guys feel about delivering presentations. So the poll should be appearing. Just 4 choices. How do you feel about delivering? It might be you can't think of anything worse. It might be that you're anxious but you just get through. You neither like or dislike. I haven't really got an opinion on it. And I love delivering presentations being the second one. 4th one. So I think we've had most people vote. That's fantastic. So 50%, actually half of the people are saying, well, yeah, they do make me feel anxious, and it's perfectly normal that they do, without a doubt. But you push through, and then one person loving delivering presentations, fantastic. Hopefully they'll contribute towards the end, and then a few people neither like or dislike. So we'll leave the poll behind. And we'll get going. So why develop your presentation skills? So being able to present confidently can help with a whole range of things, to be fair. They can certainly help you to secure new jobs and promotions. Recruitment now is not just about the classic interview. It's a lot more blended and varied, and a presentation for many roles now is a key part of the job interview process. We've got an apprentice working for us, Olivia, big shout out to. But she's currently going through her endpoint assessment, and part of her endpoint assessment as a business admin apprentice is delivering a presentation on PowerPoint. So really key, even in early careers. They can help build more effective relationships. Definitely increase your power of influencing people. I mean, a presentation can also be on a one-to-one basis as well. They definitely can help you build your personal brand. So anybody that came on the personal brand webinar, we can deliver talent development programs that include developing personal brand and developing your presentation skills as well. And sneakily, maybe, they help you get what you want, to be fair. So they help you get results, they do help you influence, and so, I mean, that's just a few things, but they're really key presentation skills now in the workplace. I think the big thing is, where do we start? And the session that Title is presenting with Edge, and presenting with Edge for me is moving from good to great. So that's fine, but it's not worth actually trying to put the gloss on a presentation or sprinkling it with fairy dust if you've not actually done the preparation in the first place. So you know, I like this quote: preparation is the key to success, and it certainly is when it comes to delivering presentations. I think mainly for me it's about getting the basics right. And there's three elements really that I'll start with, that I really had to learn when I went from being an operational manager to delivering training on a regular basis. So the planning, and we talked about preparation being really key. So what is that? What's part of that? So I would put it down to these things. What's the purpose of the presentation? Do you know what it's for? Are there learning objectives? Are you trying to sell something? Are you trying to convince people? Is it a new policy change? What's the purpose? And that will really help you to come up with the content of the presentation. And really key is understanding your audience. Who's attending? From that, is it a team of senior leaders? Is it a team of frontline managers? Or is it a mix? And you may well get a mix of different people. And one thing that we would explore a lot more on our sessions regarding this is that people have got different communication and learning styles. I'm sure quite a few people will have heard of VAC or VART, where people have got visual style, they've got an audio style, and a kinesthetic style. And it's about actually making sure that your presentation appeals to everybody's different learning styles. So slides may well be appropriate, but it might not just be about delivering a PowerPoint presentation. And of course, Death by PowerPoint is now something that's out there in the business world. Content is really key. How are you going to deliver that? And I think, you know, I know this sounds really simple, but for me, the biggest tip is to make sure that you've got a clear beginning, an introduction. You're looking at the sort of content of the presentation. You've then got your meat in the middle, if you like, which probably ought to be around about 80%. So you've got 10% at the start, around about 80%, and then maybe 10% to give yourself a really powerful finish, an end to the session, which I'm going to come to a little bit later. And what format do you need? Do you actually need PowerPoint? You might not. There's all sorts of other formats that you can use. You can even use, of course, online resources now, and facilities like Zoom and Teams and GoToMeeting are really interesting. Use the classic flip chart, for example, is a really useful tool as well. So that's a whistle-stop tour really of the planning stage of getting the basics right. The next stage is in the design, and I think, you know, one of the things that I hear an awful lot when it comes to presenting is it's about you as the person. It's not about the slides. Well, I disagree with that a little bit. Yes, it is about you as a person, and people are watching you and they're looking at you. But actually, the design is right as well. You can be a fantastic presenter, but if your slides are absolutely appalling, or whatever it is that you're presenting, there's spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, whatever it is, really old images, whatever it might be, could mean that your presentation is not as impactful as you want it to be. So I just wanted to share this slide with you. This is a slide that I got from a previous course. It's not one of mine. But this is, this is an example, and it might be an example where people are thinking, is that a bit far-fetched? But that's a slide that we got when we were creating presentations. So you can see there, all over the place, a lot of old looking pick-up from sort of what I think is the 90s. And there is actually a title on there, amazingly. I'm hovering my cursor over it, but the title there is, you can't see it. It's really, really cluttered. So getting those basic right is really, really key as well. I don't know if people are aware of the 10, 20, 30 rule for slides. I sometimes follow that, but that is in any presentation, there should be 10 slides or a maximum of 10 slides. It should take a maximum of 20 minutes, because after 20 minutes, people are going to start to switch off. So at least have a break or an activity after that time. And then the font should actually be, the size of the font should be 30 plus. And that just means that everybody is able to see it. So that's 10, 20, 30 rule. I think it came from a guy called Guy Kawasaki. It's out there on the internet for anybody that wants to have a look. Delivery, of course, we know is obviously really key as well. I think for me, the biggest thing is being authentic. I think you can tend to want to turn into a different person. A lot of self-limiting beliefs and negative self-talk can come out prior to your presentation, and that can really hold you back, and then you try and become someone you're not. I think everybody has got a different style, and we don't expect, or I certainly wouldn't expect, everybody to stand up and stand on chairs, etc., and do song and dance. But actually, for some people, that might be perfectly normal and a great way to deliver. So try and be as authentic as you can throughout the presentation is what I would definitely say. So what we're looking at doing now is we're taking you through that sort of basics, getting the basics right, making sure that you're doing everything you can from a basic point of view, and you're creating and you're delivering a decent presentation. It's a good presentation. What I want to do is I want to give you a few tools now and techniques and tips to help you really give that presentation impact and what I will call the edge. So we're trying to get it from maybe a boring presentation, certainly not a really memorable one, and we're trying to get it to this awesome one. So anyone can be cool, but awesome takes practice, and it does take practice. And that's one of the big things I would say in the preparation actually is make sure you're practicing that presentation as much as you can. So these are the 5 tools. I've got 5 ingredients actually that make up presenting with Edge, and they're really, really simple tools. We would spend obviously a lot more time on each one. In fact, you will build your own presentation as we actually went through them on our courses. But yeah, just 5 techniques that could really move that presentation and give it the edge. So we've got a stopwatch there. And one thing that I would say, probably back to the basics actually, is the first thing on that is really practice the time. The time that you've got. You might only have 10 minutes for a presentation in an interview or a meeting. And, actually, if you go over that, people have totally switched off as well. So you've got to really be strict on time. But what I'm talking about in terms of time on this presenting with Edge piece is the first 60 seconds. So for me, that is the real key start of that presentation. It's a chance where you can make or break your presentation. Now, again, there's loads of stats out there, but one that seems to have been around a long time is it's going to take your audience around 7 seconds to make a decision. So that's 7 seconds we know is not a lot of time. So it's about getting that initial 7 seconds, 60 seconds right of the presentation. And I was also reading somewhere as well, making a first impression, of course, we know is key in business anyway, but actually in presentations is really, really key. So if you make a bad impression, you make a bad start, then it takes another 14 positive encounters to swing that back round. Now, you might not get another 14, and you certainly wouldn't do on a short presentation. So it's really key to actually get the first 60 seconds right. Confidence is key, and that might be, you might not be overconfident, but it's about portraying that. It's about getting yourself, it's about mindset, really. It's about a playing to win mindset, a positive mindset, about going in there. You might be absolutely shaking inside and the heart racing, but it's about trying to get yourself in that confident mindset. And for me, a top tip, and something that I definitely did when I was starting out in delivering presentations, was memorizing that first 60 seconds. I don't think you need to memorize every single word. I think sometimes that can look a bit scripted actually on your presentation, but the first 60 seconds give you that confidence really to be able to go away and give it a really good impactful start. So number two, another key one, and this is around storytelling. And I think storytelling for me is a key part of many presentations, and there are different ways that you can tell stories. But they are really the foundation of any great presentation, and they can really give it an edge. I think it says on the bullet there, if you can capture hearts and minds, then you're going to get much more of a buy-in. Stats are important, and people do like to have the stats, but if you can really engage someone and tap into their heart and their mind, then you really are swinging that presentation. Use different stages of the story as well. I'm not particularly going to do that today just because of the time, but one technique that I've used in the past is I've started my story right at the beginning and I've added to it sort of throughout the presentation, and then I've given it a really sort of powerful ending, if you like, of that story to close the presentation, and I think that can work really well. I've put use humour on here. I think you've got to be careful with that. Definitely, it's what you're comfortable with. But I think there's nothing wrong with making people smile, making people laugh, if you like, as well. And that really connects with them and builds that rapport with them. You might want to consider a phrase that pays. I'm getting quite American, I guess, there. And speaking of American, I suppose the one that I can remember, 2008, I think it was, Barack Obama in the presidential election, and his was "Yes, we can." So that was kind of repeated. So is there a phrase that pays? Is there something that you can use in your story? And I think the biggest thing is using personal experiences as well. That for me is a really key part of your presentation. So I suppose I just wanted to illustrate it, and it's a little bit more difficult to illustrate it when I'm not face to face with people. But that was me 10 years ago. Actually, 10 years ago. I was thinking about that this morning, and I've got two daughters, Holly being the eldest there, and Evie, just a little baby, and of course now they're full-on teenagers and tweenagers or whatever it is. But I want to tell the story of Holly. So she was 5 years old 10 years ago, and I went to pick her up from a foundation class at school, and she was crying, and she was out in the class with Mrs. Wallace, who was a teacher, and Holly was you can see a smile there. She was really happy child, and I came to pick her up. Don't normally get to pick her up, and I said, "What are you crying for, Holly?" And Mrs. Wallace is kind of, "Go on, Holly, we don't really know." And she said, "Well, it's sports day. It's sports day next week." I said, "Well, that's great. You love your sport, don't you?" "Yeah, but there's a parents' race." "Okay. Well, what's up with that?" She said, "Well, you can't go in this parents' race." And I said, "Well, why can't I go in the parents' race? I could give it a go." Well, she says, "You can't, you're fat." And, that was a 5-year-old child on that. But instantly, that has stayed with me ever since. And, it actually prompted me. It was that one little bit of motivation to lose some weight, to get, to really focus on my physical well-being. I was 5.5 stones. And that was as a result of that comment. So that's just a short story, just to kind of illustrate and get people to buy in. If you can use people's names and really try and set the scene as well, then people might tap into it a lot more. So we're gonna zoom through. The diamonds are kind of our golden nuggets, if you like, of any presentation. So what kind of thing do you really want someone to take away? What are the key messages that you want to get out of the presentation? Unfortunately, it's a real issue that the human brain isn't going to remember a lot of the presentation. So it might remember 50% of the presentation after an hour. It might then forget and only remember 30% after 24 hours. And then actually within a week of a presentation, you remember in less than 10%. So you as a presenter, as a deliverer, need to be thinking, well, what are the key messages that I really want people to take away, and how do I make them memorable? I'm going into remarkable resources now as my number 5. I will killer questions. That's it. I've skipped one. Apologise for that. And just remember that you don't get presentations perfect all the time, and that's another thing of not panicking as well. If you do make an error on the presentation. So killer questions for me can form a brilliant part of any presentation. Confirmation questions are all about getting people to say yes, nod their head, etc. So not necessarily people talking all the time, but really trying to engage your audience. Polling questions are those questions where you can get people to maybe even put their hand up, which is great interaction, really gets people engaged on that. So what do you think? Is it a yes or no answer? Are there 3 or 4 answers? Do that as part of your presentation. And you can put quite a few rhetorical questions that really get people thinking. You don't need an answer, but what questions could be really powerful to get people thinking? And I suppose another one on that is the sort of what if questions. What if I could show you a way to increase your profit by 100% in 2 years? Yeah, a bit far-fetched, but that's the idea. And I suppose the other one on that is audience questions. Just be careful on that. It's great to give people the chance, but you might want to say that at the start of your presentation rather than getting people to come in and interrupt throughout. Or you could have some pauses, which breaks up your presentation as well. The 5th one is remarkable resources. So, I've put some Haribos on there. It's not just about giving sweets out and freebies out. So I think that's a key thing that I would say is make sure that that what you give away, if you do give anything away, actually ties into the topic. But make them memorable. Be creative. One of the things, I put the dollar on there because one of the things that still sticks with me, I went on a leadership development course, I don't know, it could be 20 years ago now. It was one of the first ones that I went on. And we all sat down, and there was a dollar bill on the chair. And we're all like, what's this about? And actually the message was, it was about, as leaders, not passing the buck. So it sounds, it's only a small thing, but what kind of things can actually stick with you? And that kind of thing. Sweets are great as well, of course, and some of my favourites are the Haribos. So what I wanted to look at sort of towards the end of this webinar is dealing with nerves. So I wanted to talk to people about how I deal with some nerves, and then maybe open it up on chat to see if you've got anything that really helped you manage your nerves as well. So I would definitely say practice, but it depends on you. You can over practice potentially. Definitely knowing your subject is really, really key on this. Focusing on the audience and not you. I wouldn't say imagine the audience naked. I don't particularly think you need to say that, but actually focusing on them and what I would call the lighthouse technique is really, really key. So that's kind of going around your audience. And not sticking on one person for too long, 2 seconds maximum, just making sure that you've got that engagement. The lighthouse technique really, really works well. Accept that you might be nervous as well, and you will think of ways to get away from those nerves. That should say breathe. So make sure that you are breathing, and definitely having a glass of water, because even if you lose the plot, glass of water is superb because you can take a sip and try and get everything back round, and people just don't know that that's what you're doing. So a little bit of a tip there. And remember that it's about you. It is about you. People will actually want you to do well normally when it comes to presenting. So try and own that space as well. Anybody on chat want to come up with any other ideas around handling nerves? How do you handle your nerves when it comes to presenting? Any other tips? No? Oh, thanks, Deborah. Have a sympathetic person in the audience if you can. I think that's a really good tip, actually. And I think actually engaging with the audience first, if you can, is really, really good. Erica, I've recorded myself to perfect my technique. I mean, that can be quite scary. We do that sometimes as part of the product if people want to. But you can really pick out some of the things that you're doing well and also some of the things that you might want to perfect. Anything else? Tell yourself it's excitement rather than nerves. Yeah, I like it. Do a trial run in a safe space with a colleague. And if they can throw out challenging questions as well, that's good. Asking questions to the audience, get the audience involved by asking questions. I totally agree. I think that's a really, really useful thing to do. Involve the audience to take some pressure off you for a moment as well, which is what you guys have just done. So thanks for that. Okay. If you could put any questions on chat, if you want to talk to me sort of offline as well about this program, about how I might be able to help with presentation skills for you personally or your organization, please do give me a shout. We just developed, and I do want to share this with you because I am quite excited about it, a new program called Leading in a Changing World. So 3 short modules: leading remote teams, leading in change, and leading health and wellbeing. And we're offering those out to organisations to really help their leaders through this period. So if you want to find out a little bit more, get to our website. And then another one that I'm involved in as a mental health first aid instructor is that we're offering the accredited mental health aware courses, which are half day. You get certificate, handbook at the end of it. And we've got a couple of dates on the website there, as you can see. A few more webinars left. There's not that too many now, but we've got leading health and wellbeing, so I'll be back online again on Friday for that one. We've got having difficult conversations, leading personal and team resilience during VUCA times, and COVID circles. So if you've not already done so, try and book on those. Give us a follow on LinkedIn if you can. Access our website for plenty of other resources that we've got and products and news, and don't hesitate to drop us a line by email or give me a quick buzz as well if you want to. And like I said, this is the end of the webinar, but if you could just put your camera over the QR code, it will literally take you a minute or so. It'd be really, really interesting to get your views on how you thought this webinar was, and if you'd like any more subjects covering on any more webinars. So thanks for that. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and hope to see you on Friday. Okay, thanks guys.